Hi, everybody. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you on our conference today. And now we will have a conversation with Roman Olokhin. Roman is a senior delivery manager at EPAM System. And in the past, he was a founder of a blockchain waiting system, blockchain waiting project. He developed this system during 5 years. And he has not only like theoretical and only development experience, but as well as practical experience, because this system was used on one of the largest election in Russia. And the initial idea of this system was about bringing transparency to voting process. Roman now can clearly realize all the pros and cons of this process and can answer the tough question why the blockchain cannot solve problem with a trusted election. So the topic will be very interesting and I believe very important for all of us. So be in touch with you. With us, I just want to inform you that the session will be recorded, and the structure of our session will be just the main part. It will be maybe 20 or 30 minutes. And then we will have a Q&A part when you can like ask all your questions and we provide you answers. So I encourage you to use the Q&A tab. You can see it on the right part of your screen. Please pay attention to this tab and please provide your question during the presentation. So this was all from my side. Roman, you can start. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sergey. Hello, everybody. Well, yeah, I'll share my kind of experience of building those system, and the presentation, the whole story will consist of two parts. The first one is like the sales pitch, like how we're envisioning this, and the second part, some sort of reality kind of. So let's move on. So the sales pitch, basically I will describe how the system work and should work, how it worked, etc. So the blockchain voting system is that like the way to build some sort of transparent online voting systems. It's like the possibility of letting third parties monitor and control the voting system in a pretty similar way how it's done offline when there is like people at the ballot station watching and controlling how the voting going on. And when we talk about votings, then there is like many segments where it can be applied. So it's not only about top level elections, government kind of elections, or I don't know, like presidential election, whatever. Many organizations are using votings as a way to make decisions. So it's like kind of political parties, universities, different kind of unions, etc. So it can be applied in many places and organizations. How the system will working. So one needs to set up an election, basically, in order to start an election, you need to define like a list of questions you want to get answers, like votes, and list of people who should be voting, and then all these things will be recorded in a blockchain. Important to note that just blockchain is not enough. Naturally, you can build the system even without blockchain. You just need some sort of immutable public ballot board, but blockchain do it to its functionality is like something very close to the kind of requirements questions. But still, it is not enough because you need to provide anonymity on top of a blockchain. Sometimes that's not the case. And you need to, at the same time, you need to hide intermediate results of the votings. So in open systems, when you need to hide something, there is the only way is to use some sort of cryptography on top. So we had developed online voting protocol, which were working on top of a blockchain system, and it consists of 3 main stages. So the first one is voting creation. So basically, you set up a voting, as I said, like access list of voters, the questions or variants to vote for. Then you need to generate decentralized key, which will be used for encryption of the votes on the later stages. Decentralized, well, you can have a single centralized key, but decentralized kind of more kind of protected one, I would say. So it's more in the essence of the decentralization, provides higher level of protection. And this key will be used later on the second stage, where the voting happens actually, where the voters casting their votes. Each vote is encrypted on their computer, on a local computer, and then it's recorded in a blockchain in an encrypted way. So it's not really possible to see what's inside of the vote, of the ballot actually. And this way you cannot understand the intermediate results of the vote, and you cannot actually influence on a voting based on this, because it's just sometimes it's even illegal to disclose intermediate results in some countries, for example. And the third stage is then the result calculation happens. Here it can be done in a few ways. One way is that you completely decrypt all the votes and you record them in a blockchain again, just for the transparency and traceability. So you can actually compare the decrypted votes, which are already in the blockchain, and encrypted votes, which are also in the blockchain. Or depending on the cryptography system you used, you can decrypt, or not decrypt, but count the votes without decrypting them, based on the utilizing homomorphic properties of the encryption. But I will not go deep into details here because that's not something I was going to talk about. And we will go to the next part of the presentation, where I will talk about kind of reality, the challenges of reality. I'm not sure how to call it, but let's go. First kind of reality check or challenge is that some sort of inertia. The decision makers, just have it like a political party as an example, the decision makers are afraid of changing the voting procedure because that brings additional risks. Basically, they might not be re-elected if there is like a different voting procedure, different people coming to the voting because of this, etc. So it's not that easy. I mean, this area frequently very conservative, and it's not that easy to convince them to change the procedure. That's not the case for every segment. For example, universities adopting these things, the sort of systems relatively quickly, but universities are not that commercially interesting, I will say. Like, they usually have kind of smaller budgets, etc. The second thing is regulation. the voting has to comply with the laws in place, with the regulation. Frequently, that requires that there is like some papers available, which needs to be signed or reviewed or collected whatsoever. That's not really kind of bad thing, because some sort of a paper trail helps kind of bringing additional layer of security into the whole system and transparency. But still, the whole concept becomes kind of quite different from the initial idea of online voting. And in our case, we ended up building the printing devices attached to the system, or voting terminals, like you see on the picture. But there is like the biggest actually challenge, the identification. Because we've been talking about the blockchains, the public ballots, etc., but we haven't touched the identification yet, which is actually probably the most important thing in the whole system. Usually, voting organizations, like any kind of those who organize the voting, they hold the identification in a centralized way. So they do it in a different way. They can do it in different ways. You need to provide some sort of integration with the identification. And usually, I'm not saying this is always the case, but usually there is no way to make the identification distributed, or some sort of broke the monopoly of the voters' identification. So basically, you either integrate with the existing kind of system and the way they integrate, or you don't participate there. And what's the problem there? The whole system must kind of cut the link between the identification and the identification system and public ballot board, the blockchain one thing, because you need to provide anonymity. That's already kind of a challenge to convince people that the link is indeed broken, because there are like millions of ways to record data about people voting. So convincing people that there is like anonymity provided is already a challenge. But okay, that was indeed kind of broken in our case, and in the link between identification and the ballot, the identity and the ballot casted by this identity. That means that you cannot link back from ballot to an identity. And that means that we end up in a situation where both part of the system has to be kind of super trusted, so that society will believe it. So the identification system has to be trusted, and the blockchain, the online voting part of the system has to be trusted. If one of them is not trusted, then the whole system is not trusted. It's like logical end operation. Let's go to the next slide. And basically, if there is mistrust in the one part of the system, for example, in identification system, for instance, you can consider that, I don't know, there are like fake ballots generated, or the system is not transparent at all. You cannot control it whatsoever. Basically, the organizer is not trusted. Then, honestly speaking, the whole blockchain idea, the possibility to control and monitor the election, is also kind of doesn't make much of the sense, I would say. So And basically, if you have, and vice versa, if you have a trusted identification system, trusted organization, a provider of identification system, then honestly speaking, it doesn't really matter if you use blockchains or just like centralized MySQL system or whatsoever, like how it's done in Estonia, for example. At the very end, in such systems, you end up with the idea that either the organizer is trusted and reliable, or it doesn't really matter what kind of technology you use and what kind of monitoring capabilities you provide with your system. So yeah, in my kind of opinion, the blockchain idea not gonna solve the online voting dilemma, kind of. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it I wanted to share with you. Yeah, maybe it's time for the questions now. If there are any.
Thank you, Roman. First of all, I want to say that it was very interesting conversation, and we can realize the real problem of this at first seems the very good idea. And yeah, we have some questions I want to ask you from the audience and from my side as well. So let's start from the big challenge, the biggest challenge and the biggest problem which we have in place. What do you think? Do you see any opportunities to improve this broken process with identification? Do you see any opportunities, or from your perspective, it's very hard to solve?
Well, I would say this is a whole kind of different industry of those sort of identification. The problem is that even if you identify a person, I mean, it's not enough to identify a person. You also need to have control over the way the ballot casted, and honestly speaking, in our case, I haven't I wasn't able to come to, we wasn't able to come to the like proper transparent solution, because you can identify a person, but you need to make sure that there is no fake identities generated if the identity party, the identity provider is not kind of trusted. And here you need to build the whole kind of different system involving third parties, independent third parties whatsoever in the identification process, I guess. But how to implement this technically, I don't know, honestly speaking, at this stage.
Yeah, and maybe for like bringing more details around this problem, can you provide to us like real malicious case with identification? Maybe the case when you faced during the election, when the system was used in real practice?
Well, the things I have described are kind of theoretical. I have no evidences of malicious behavior whatsoever. I don't have those examples.
Okay.
Those things are theoretical, but as you can see, this is very easy. I mean, it is very easy to criticize those systems using just single argument of the identity, of the identity mechanisms, etc. And the voting is is basically not about technology. It's about trust. And if you can easily question the whole procedure this way, then the trust is gone, I would say. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe do you know some maybe real examples in the world when these blockchain voting are working well, and maybe some success cases from your experience? Do you know any examples?
Well, they work well, any kind of voting actually, not blockchain particular, online voting, I mean, not blockchain particular work well if there is like trusted kind of environment, the trusted operator of the voting and trusted organizer of the voting. So the society considers them kind of reliable, right? So if, yeah, like Estonia is a great example, I would say. There are many cases where blockchain voting is used for the commercial votings, for the student votings. Commercial, I mean, then it's like some votes within the organizations, stockholders voting. I think I heard of those kind of examples as well. But again, that's the idea, the reason they are successful and kind of welcomed by corresponding societies, not because, in my opinion, not because they are blockchain based. That adds a little bit of transparency and trust, but in the first place, I will say they're successful because the organizer is trusted, the operator is trusted.
Yeah, okay. It's so this conversation, I believe, opens door to thinking that many blockchain projects, not only voting, but some projects which depend on like third-party data, can be as well at risk. Yeah, so it's like a like a big problem.
I don't know that I wouldn't say that. I mean, there are like many segments where blockchain being applied and trying to be applied. I'm not here to judge. I wasn't spending that much time in other segments besides voting. So honestly speaking, I don't know.
Okay. And, you know, it was like a very interesting project, especially, I believe, 7 years ago when you started development this system. And from your perspective, what was like a main challenge with development process of this, like a new system and this new blockchain technology, when people don't know about this technology so widely, like in this time? So what was the main challenge with this startup for developing the idea?
The inertia, I think, and I would say one thing. And the second thing is that's still quite a niche product. It's quite difficult to build a successful and reliable kind of cash flow based on this. And we've been trying with many segments, and only few were more or less successful. And even so, it's still, I will still say this is a niche product. I mean, yeah. And well, yeah.
Okay, so it's mainly around the marketing and around this bringing idea to customers, yeah, and the market itself.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, and we have some like thoughts from Eugene, in our chat. Thank you for the story. Considering open participants' IDs for elections, faking ID will be much harder if party which organize the election publish the voter lists and ensure technical means for protecting authentication. Can blockchain be useful in this use case while still maintaining the secrecy of the choices?
Then, in theory, yes, yeah, sure, surely. I mean, you can build. Indeed, you can build a kind of like distributed identification system involving third parties, etc. The problem is that I think broking the inertia, the conservatism of actors regarding identification is probably even harder than working it regarding the voting itself. Like just think of this like you want to conduct a voting in some governmental voting in a I don't know, like city or whatsoever, and the city government is owning the whole list of citizens of people living in this city or whatsoever. I really doubt they're gonna kind of outsource this or share these responsibilities, etc. Yeah. For many other scenarios, for instance, students are very adaptive of this thing, but with the students, there's like another problem. They don't have like budgets, so you cannot build kind of sustainable business based on students only.
So, and yeah, it's clear. And what do you think? What is the next most interesting market if we exclude the government for the system?
Another big market there is those commercial votings when you do like stock votings. But that's also a very super conservative market. There are several big players there already. They are doing they're like providing the votings already, paper-based votings through the post, like traditional, you send some mails here and there, and they do experiment with the blockchain votings. But at the same time, if those guys will implement online voting in a centralized manner, just because they have the brand, they have the name, they're already trusted for conducting offline votings, remote, but kind of offline for the posting mails, then they still can do this. I mean, yeah, blockchain is not gonna, in my opinion, maybe I'm just too skeptical, but it's not gonna disrupt the industry just because it's blockchain. We need something more.
Yeah, it's clear. And you know, I believe another interesting question that how it was possible to promote this system to government. So I believe it was real case when the system was used in the real voting world. So how it was possible this conservative system agree to use this technology?
I wouldn't say it was like used. We were like mostly consulting. We had few examples, not few, but like several. I cannot say many, but several examples working with the governments. And in most of the cases, were like maybe two reasons, maybe they are thinking of using this sort of systems. One of them is that there were like some sort of hype around blockchains back in time. You probably all know about this. And the the decision makers are, all of them are like politicians, and they are happy to kind of use this sort of hype to show that they are modern, they are looking for new systems, they're looking for like cost optimization, for instance, because at the very end, online voting may reduce the cost of votings, not immediately, but some long-term kind of. So that's the reason. So basically, they can build some positive PR based on this. And the second thing is that probably that helps to bring more people to the ballot stations, specifically when you have relatively passive society, maybe, I don't know, because you just lower the kind of efforts needed to cast a vote. So online voting kind of easier, I will say. And what else? And maybe third reason is that you can bring a bit younger people into the whole process using the online capabilities, because there is a, let's say, there is like inequality, kind of, right? Older generation is used to offline kind of ways of life, so they can visit, I don't know, like banks, shops, grocery stores, etc. And younger generation is more kind of towards online way of life. When they order online, then they kind of get to know each other online in the social media, or I don't know, dating apps, whatsoever. But this is more like a kind of, maybe not the hypothesis. You probably remember the Brexit case when the UK voted for exiting the European Union. And before the Brexit happened, according to the surveys, actually the British people were voting for staying within EU. But the reality, like the end result was that they voted against, just because surveys were conducted on the streets, kind of. So basically, you had some sort of equal distribution between young and older generation. But the voting happened actually kind of offline, and more kind of older generation people came to the ballot stations and voted for the exit, because again in the survey they noticed the distribution of pro and against votes, and basically people voting for exiting the European Union was more for older generation people.
So this all kind of votings sometimes depends on politician system. So I don't know. Sometimes it's in most cases. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. Yep. Okay, Roman, thank you for your time and for so interesting and very, I believe, important conversation for all of us. I just want to thank as well our audience, and just want to remind you that after a short break, we will have another very interesting topic about Metaverse. And at the end of the day, we will have a quiz when you can like get a free gift, an NFT gift. So be in touch with us. And thank you very much, Roman, again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.